All right. So once we go ahead and substitute, what is the one thing that I am asking you to write at the top of that problem? Everyone? PEMDAS. I know some of you are experts at doing computation in your head, but I don't want that. I want you guys to do the work or else you're going to make mistakes. Remember, when we're under pressure, many times our brain goes a little bit faster than our hand and we forget to do stuff. Yes. Okay. So once again, points for the test. Half the points are what? The work, and half the points is if you answer it correct. So if you're not giving me any work, how can I give you those points? Does that make sense? All right, here we go. So PEMDAS. Do we have parentheses? Yes, but we can't simplify it, but it also includes grouping symbols. Our grouping symbol is what? The fraction bar. So that tells us to stay focused either on the numerator or the denominator. Right now I'm going to focus on the numerator. I'm going to simplify it all the way through. So I'm going that way. So let's see. Parentheses, like I said, we can't do anything about it. Exponents, what is 6 squared? 36, and I bring everything else over. The 8, the minus, the 2, and times 4, and I'm still going that way. Next, multiplication and division, I'm going from left to right. So I'm going to multiply 36 times 8. So let's see. 30 times 8, that's 240. 6 times 8, that's 48. So therefore, that's 288. Negative 2 times 4, that's negative 8. And I'm still going that way. And right there, now we're left with one more step, which is addition and subtraction. I'm going from left to right. What is 288 minus 8? 280. Are we done simplifying the numerator? Yes. So now we carry over the 4 all the way through. And let's see, how many times does 4 fit into 28? 7, and then we bring the 0 down, so that's 70. Hands if you got that by yourself? Okay, good. Let's go to the next one. And once again, notice I first focused all the way through with the numerator and then carried my denominator at the end, yes? All right, let's continue. Number 3. 14 less than the product of negative 11, and a number is 107. Find the number. So first things first, we're going to circle less than. And we're going to circle what other one over here? Is. And is tells us that it's an equation, therefore, could it be an inequality also? Give me a second. If we already have an equation, could it be an inequality? No. So what is less than? Subtraction. All right. All right. So wherever we have less than or more than that, we write after our what? Our variable. So let's see. Let's write our variable down. The product of negative 11 and a number. That one is negative 11. Since we don't know the number, what variable do we use? X. All right. So what comes right after that? Minus 14. And then let's finish this off. Is 107. Okay, hands if you did at least up to right there. Okay. Now, if you got this step right, the rest will be a piece of cake because it's just using numbers operation. So let's see. Instead of subtracting, we were going to add 14 to each side, add 14 to each side. We're left with negative 11x equals 121. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay, give me a second. So we're left with x equals negative 11. So now the question was, what if we wrote it which way? 14 minus 11. Okay. Let's look at this. Everybody's eyes up here, please. Let's find out why we have to, hold on. The question was why could we use this form? Okay, let's find out. Everybody look up. I said, whenever you have less than or more than, that we write after our what? After our variable. Are we there? Did we do that here? Yes. Now, What sign is this 14? Negative. Let's look at this one. What sign is this one? So therefore, right there is a mistake. You guys see that? If we were to solve this, if we subtract 14 from each side, we wouldn't get 121. We would get something else. I know. That's what I'm saying. I'm showing you the structure. Whenever it says less than or more than, we have to write after the variable. Make a note for yourself. Write this down, please. Put a little asterisk and write, the only time I write everything in the same order is when it starts with increased by or decreased by. Okay, those are the only times we write it, as you said, Josh, like that. We write it straight how it's set, how it's read. Okay. Any other time, whenever you have less than or more than, we have to write that after the variable. Everybody got it? Okay. So let's move on. Number 4. Look at this one. It says solve. Now for this one, notice that we have a bunch of stuff on each side of the equation. So for these, for those of us that get confused, make sure you draw a line straight down your equal sign. Okay? That'll tell you whether you need to focus on one side completely and then the other side. So everybody look up to the left side of the screen. Can we simplify this side? Yes. Can we combine stuff? Yes. 7h and 8h becomes what? 15h. And that's the reason that I drew this line. Some of us do this. Pay attention. Some of us think this. 7h and 8h, you're saying. So to get rid of this one, I subtract 7h, subtract 7h. That's wrong. Okay? Since they are on the same side, of the equation, we just combine them. What is 7h plus 8 more h's? That's 15h. Okay? Subtract 11 equals. Can we combine anything on this side? Yes. We can combine the -9 and the +2. And we're left with what? -7 and bring down the 12h. From there, everybody look up, please. What's my smallest variable? 12. Okay, tell your neighbor what you need to do from there. And then, what do you need to do? Tell your neighbor. Okay, so you tell your neighbor already? All right, let's see, since you already told your neighbor. How about Jasmine? All right, so she said subtract 12h. Okay, we're left with 3h minus 11 equals -7. And what else? Add 11. Add 11. We're left with 3h equals 4. Is that correct? Okay. And the last step, what do we do? Divide by 3. Divide by 3. H equals, how many times does the 3 fit in here? 1 1/3, or who wrote it as a decimal? 1.3 bar. Okay, hands if you got that by yourself. And like I said, this should have been done last night. I'm just going over them to make sure you got the process correctly. Number 5. All right, let's look at this one. It says solve. From this one, before we get started with our LCD, we need to multiply all the signs. Let's see. What is positive times a negative? Negative, so this is -7. Okay, what is this one? Negative times a negative. Positive, so we need to make sure we do those before anything else. If you skip that step, you're going to make a mistake from the very beginning. So make a note for yourself over here on the side. Multiply the signs. Put some hearts around it. There you go, so you don't forget. All right, here we go. LCD. Tell your neighbor what the LCD is. 8. Okay, so therefore, let's distribute this. This becomes 8x minus 56 over 4. Tell your neighbor what stays the same. Okay, plus 8 times 7, that's 56, equals 8 times 7x, that's 56x, and 8 times 2, that's 16, and all that's over 8. And once again, what stayed the same? What stayed the same? Don't forget, guys, because I still have some of you multiplying the LCD times the denominator, and that's where we start making the mistakes again. Okay? So let's see. Let's simplify. 8x divided by 4, that's 2x. Negative 56 divided by 4, that is negative 14. Plus 56 equals 56x divided by 8, that's 7x. And 16 divided by 8, that's positive 2. So far, so good? Okay, let's look at this equation. Does this look familiar? Yes. All right, I'm going to draw my line down. All right. Turn to your neighbor, let them know what the next step is and what the next step after that is, and I'll ask somebody to help me out. Yeah. Okay, let me get somebody to help me out. How about Jonathan? Okay, what do I do? Next step. 14 and 56, what do you get? 42 positive, and we bring down the 2x, the equal 7x plus 2. Hands if you got that step. Okay, good. And what's the next step, Jonathan? Subtract 2x both sides, and we're left with 42 equals 5x plus 2. Hands have you got up to right there? Okay, so finish it off, and then I'll get somebody to help me out with the answer, please. All right, let's see. How about Amy? Amy got x equals 8, or 8 equals x. Hands if you got that. Okay, that is correct. Let's see, how'd you get there, Amy? What'd you do right here? Subtract 2, we're left with 40 equals 5x. And at the end, divide by 5, and x equals 8. Or 8 equals x. Okay, that was number 5. Let's go to number 6. All right, let's look at this one. It says solve. All right. So for this one, what was the one thing I told you? Think about this question. What was the one thing I told you not to do with this kind of problem? Think about it. Think about it. Okay. Tell your neighbor what not to do. Exactly. We are not to distribute. It is not a parentheses. It's an absolute value. So therefore, if the 6 is multiplying, what do we do? divide by 6, divide by 6. So therefore 6 over 6 is 1. We're left with absolute value x minus 2 equals 6 fits in there how many times? 9. All right. And from there, we write our two equations, one negative and one positive. Okay, so let me write my negative one. X minus 2 equals negative 9. And for my positive, x minus 2 equals positive 9. So it stays the same. All right, let's solve this. So I add 2. We're left with x equals what? Negative 7. How about this one? Plus 2 plus 2. We're left with x equals 11. Hey, 7, 11. Never mind. All right. This is negative 7 and 11. All right. Hands if you got that by yourself. Okay. Thank you. All right. Once again, when you get to absolute values, the reason we don't distribute is because when you distribute, you end up with only one equation, and that's only half the work. Everybody got it? All right. Let's go to number 7. Number 7. All right. This one says, what percent of 70 is 132? What percent of 70 is 132? So when we get to these percentage, think about the question. What is the one thing I ask you to write down? Think about it. What is the one thing I ask you to write down when we get to these percents? Tell your neighbor. Tell your neighbor. All right, so I heard you say is over of equals percent, and some of you said, can I just write the symbol, Mr. Q? Sure, percent over 100. All right, so from here, I'm going to rewrite this, but with blanks. Blank equals blank, and which one is the only one that never changes? The 100. So let's see, let's circle stuff. Of 70, where does that go? On the bottom denominator, there it is. Is 132, where does that go? The top on the numerator, 132. And since they're asking us for the percent, we don't know, that is labeled X. All right? Cross multiply, since we have a proportion, this is 70X equals, let's see, 132, and we add 2 zeros. All right? And my last step to solve for x, we divide by 70, divide by 70. 70 divided by 70 is 1. 1 times x is x. Let's do this one. And remember that I showed you how if we have zeros on numerator and denominator, what do? Take off one set of zeros. Is that correct? All right. And we're left with 1320 divided by 7. So 1,320 divided by 7. 7 fits in here once. 7, subtract, that's 6, 2, 7 fits in there 8 times, that's 56, subtract, that's 6, add a 0, that fits in there 8, that's 56, subtract, that's 4, we add a 0 and therefore add a decimal, bring down the 0, 7 fits in there 5, that's 35, subtract, that's 5, add another 0, so therefore it fits in there 7 times. And why do we have to go to the second one? Because they want us to round to the 10th. Everybody see that? That's why you need to go to at least to the second decimal. So make a note for yourself so you won't forget. Go to the second decimal. Okay? So let's look at this. So since we need to round to the 10th, does that stay a 5 or goes up to a 6? All right, so this becomes 188.6%. All right, Hans, have you got that by yourself? All right. So once again, don't forget to write down your proportion for this one, or else you start making little mistakes right there. Let's go to number 8. Number 8. Okay, let's look at that one. Think about this question. By looking at this one, what would be our first step? And what is it that you want somebody to not forget to do? Think about it. What would be your first step? And what is it that you want somebody else to know not to forget? All right, tell your neighbor, what would be your first step and not to forget to do what? All right, let me get somebody to help us out. How about Priscilla? What'd you get? What did your neighbor say? Okay, so what do? Multiply times -3 times -3 times -3. And don't forget to what? Switch the symbols. Yes, the sign. So therefore this one goes that way and this one goes that way because we're dividing by a negative. Everybody see that? Or multiplying by a negative. Okay? And if it's adding or subtracting, you don't change. Thank you. So this stays R. So -3 times -3, that's 9. -9 times -3, that's, I'm sorry, 9 times -3, that's what? -27. Okay, let's graph this. Okay, here we got 0. -27 is over here. And 9 somewhere over here. I'm going to graph the first part in green. This one. 9. Does it include the 9? Let's see. Yes, it does because it has the equal sign. So therefore, we need to bubble our point. There it is. And let's read it. 9 is greater than R. What number could I substitute for R that 9 is going to be greater than that number? Yeah. What is it? 1. So is 9 greater than 1? Yeah, so therefore we're going to shade everything to the left. Okay? Let's graph the second part. Does it include -27? No, so we just circle our spot because it doesn't have the equal sign. And it says R is greater than -27. What numbers are greater than -27? Everything to the right. Right? All right. So therefore, if these two overlap, what kind of compound? N. So let's write our notation set. The set of all what? R's, such that we write -27 and we write 9. What goes in between? R. Does it include the 27? No, so it's just arrow that way. Does it include the 9? Yeah, so you draw your equal sign. And we're done. Yeah. Copy this one. Everybody look up, please. The question was, could we write the set of all R's and just write this in here? Yes, you can do that. Tell your neighbor what I just said. So for those of us that still, we might get confused with the graphing and writing our notation set from here, just write this in here after the R. Okay? All right, let's go to number 9. Number 9. It says, solve, graph, and write answer notation sets. Solve, graph, and write answer notation set. All right, think about this question. What is your first step and your second step? First step and second step in order to solve this. Okay, tell your neighbor, please. First step and second step. Okay, let me get somebody to help me out since you already talked it over with your neighbor. Nice conversation. Here we go. How about Priscilla already went. How about Esteban? What'd your neighbor say? That's what your neighbor said? Okay. Yeah, because I saw some of you were somewhere else in Barney Land. Okay, and we're left with 2x less than 8. And what else after that? Divide by 2. and we're left with x less than 4. Hands if your neighbor said that. Hands if you think that is the correct steps. Okay, thank you. All right, guys, once again, when we share with your neighbors, because I want you guys to be talking about what we're doing, make sure that they understand what we're doing. Because if you're the only one that's understanding, the rest of us are over here in Disneyland, you're going to miss the next concepts. Please, pretty please. All right, here we go. Let's graph this. So we got 0. We got 1, 2, 3, 4 is right here. And let's plot our point. Does it include 4? No, so we just circle our spot. And it says x is less than 4. What numbers are less than 4? Everything to the left, including negative 23. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right. And our notation set, the set of all x such that, and somebody said, could we just write this in here? Yes. X is less than 4. Hands if you got that by yourself. Okay. Let's go to number 10. Number 10. It says solve, graph, and write answer and notation sets. All right, let's look at this. Talk it over with the neighbor. What is your first step and your second step? First step and second step. Yes, ma'am. Okay, thank you. All right, bye. All right. Here we go. Josh, go. At 10. Oh, sorry. At, really? At, wow. I'm about to fire my tablets. All right. Now, you said add 10 to each side, okay? And we're left with what? Absolute value, x plus 1 is less than 18, all right? To equate to absolute value inequalities. So 1 negative. So what do we write here? X plus 1. Who caught that greater than? What is that we don't need to forget on this one? When we're doing the negative, we need to flip the symbol. Make sure you don't forget. Make a note for yourself. Make a note right here. Don't forget to flip. And I want you to point to the negative one, because that's the only time we're going to flip it where we're doing inequalities. Negative 18. And let's write one for our positive one. Positive. So we're left with x plus 1 less than 18. And let's solve. Martin, what do I do? What do I subtract? Subtract 1 from both sides, and we're left with x is greater than negative 19. Subtract 1, subtract 1. X is less than 17. Hands if you got that by yourself. Okay, let's graph this. So we got 0, got negative 19 over here, and we got 17 over here. And I'm going to start the first part. I'm going to graph it in red. Does it include negative 19? No. So let's see. X is greater than negative 19. What numbers are greater than negative 19? Everything to the right. Okay? So let's graph the second one. I'll do that in green. 17, does it include 17? No, you mark the spot because it doesn't have an equal sign. X is less than 17. What numbers are less than 17? Everything to the left. All right, let's write our notation set. The set of all x such that, look at this one. On this one, we can't write these two in here because this is a what? And so I'm going to write negative 19, 17, x. And remember, these arrows in that direction never change. The only thing that we need to check is what? If it includes the point. Does it include the negative 19? How about the 17? No, and we're done. All right? So that was number 9. It was 10? Okay, number 10. Let's go to number 11. 11. Okay? Okay, here we go. It says simplify. So, everybody look up, please. At this point, since we have numbers only, we need to multiply them out. That's what it means. So let's see. This one becomes 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. 2 multiplied itself how many times? 6. Times. And what does this one say? 2 times 2. Everybody there so far? So here we go. Let's go one step at a time. What is 2 times 2? 4 times 2 times 2, 16 times 2, 32 times 2, 64 times 2, 128 times 2, 256. And we're done. Yes. Number 12. Here we go. When we get to these, guys, everybody look up, please. Notice that we have an exponent outside of the parentheses. We need to distribute to all the exponents, but in order for us to not make mistakes, you need to write a 1 on anything that does not have an exponent. You need to write a 1 on anything, whether it's a number or a variable that does not have an exponent. Tell your neighbor what I just said. Okay, let's distribute this. This times that, this times that, this times that, and this times that. So let's rewrite it. This becomes 3 to the 4th, m to the, let's say 8 times 4, that's 32, over 4 times 4, that's 16, and n to the 4 times 3, that's 12. Let's rewrite this again. And check this out. Everybody look up, please. I'm going to rewrite this because still some of you are making mistakes here. Everybody look up, please. Some of you do this, 3 times 4 and it's 12. That is incorrect. This does not mean we're multiplying this times that. This one says 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. That's what that means. Make sure you make a note for yourself, those of you that are still making that mistake. Okay, and I'm going to carry everything else over, m to the 32nd, m to the 16, and n to the 12. Okay, not yet. I want to make sure I get the numbers ready. There we go. What is 3 times 3? 9. What is 3 times 3? What is 9 times 9? 81. Okay? From there, let's finish this. 32 and 16, when we're dividing, what happens to the exponents? We subtract, so we're left with m to the 16. And common mistake is here. Some of you bring the n to the numerator, but since we don't have anything else, it stays on the denominator. You just bring it over. That's n to the 12. Okay, so homework. Homework. Make sure you focus on study guide. Study guide A and B, and focus on the first half, at least 1 through 20. All right? Have a good one, guys. I'll see you guys in tutoring. If not, see you guys tomorrow. All right, guys. I'll post the second half after tutoring today. All right? All right. Have a good one. Bye.